what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video, and we have one here for you. Toburo, you are the problem with Arknights Enfield's dodge. I want to do this video a little bit differently. I usually just react to content. When I'm streaming, people post videos, we look at what's going on, we have a little look, react to the news, the information, the drama, whatever you will. But the last video that Toburo made, I think, was a really well-made video with eloquent, well-put points. There was parts that I probably had a different opinion, but there was many things that I agreed with in his intentions in the video. And I think it was just a really, really well-made video as well. And I kind of want to like focus in on this one without the distraction of being streaming, without the distraction of chat, and really give it the time it deserves, because I'm a massive fan of Arknights Enfield. I only played the second test, so my frame of reference is a little bit different to many people within the space. And I came in fresh as well without playing Arknights. I've now gone on to become a massive Arknights fan, and I'm really enjoying the game at the moment. So I was a fresh Bambi going into the game, coming from games like Wuthering Waves, Genshin, and other games like that. So I was totally going in blind, and I had an absolute blast with the game, right? I did like the fact that it felt a little bit more proactive, a little bit more strategic than reactive. But obviously there was a whole conversation around the game had pulled away from its even more strategic roots that it initially had, and that it was trying to appease the Genshin, the Wuthering Waves crowd in the gacha space, and I guess becoming too similar to appease to the wider audience. And there was a whole conversation around the dodge and the way the combat had changed from having this like slow down, I guess, bullet time design, if you will, to the way the skill set worked. I really like the skill set, and I like the dodge as well, personally. I didn't play it prior, so my frame of reference is slightly different. And there was a lot of people calling for the dodge to be, I guess, made more forgiving, which I don't think it needed to be done, right? I don't think it needed to become more forgiving. I think it was a little bit inconsistent sometimes, but I think that was just a polished thing, really. It just felt like sometimes the input was a little bit delayed. Maybe it was just me, but I did see other people talking about this as well, specifically regarding that. But I didn't want the dodge to become more forgiving because, again, it felt like a proactive, intentional thing. Now, there are the arguments that it's diluting the initial viewpoint from what I've heard other people saying before and the conversation that was going around after the initial video. But personally, I liked it, right? I felt like the combat in this game still felt, even though I didn't play it before, very intentional, with, I guess, a light strategic element to it. But you had to really be proactive about the things you did in the game. But I'm curious to see what Toburo's got to say here about you are the problem with Arknights Enfield's dodge. I know he does have the viewpoint of wanting the dodge not to be in the game, which is where I kind of disagree in his previous video. I was totally fine with that. But I'm also on the side of I don't want the game to be diluted away from the initial Enfield vision, right? Arknights is a really good game, and everything is incredibly intentional in that game. There's a lot of strategy, and it's what makes it beautiful. And I don't want Enfield to lose that and just attempt to chase the tails of games like Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact, because the people who play those games demand it so, and are not really interested in this game anyway. They just want it to be another game that's very much like the games they enjoy. So I hope we don't get that. But let's see what he's got to say. I think this is going to be a good one.
The power of language comes from rules
Logos?
and restraints, not from arbitrary imagination. Only by imposing constraints upon yourself can you make progress in the incantation arts.
3 months ago, I dropped a nuclear bomb on the Arknights Enfield
He
community
did.
titled The Death Knell of Gacha Games, in which I decried
Everybody was talking about this video.
their homogenization in the name of appealing to the masses, complete with deranged yelling at said masses.
Don't f***ing lie to me!
I'm not going to lie, this was probably my favourite part of the video. I thought it was hilarious. So many people got triggered about this part of the video. Oh, he's insulting people. I think it was a really good, entertaining bit, I do.
While everyone understands the need for gacha games to make money, the vast majority of people agree the combat is far too disconnected from the base, that Genshin-like homogeneity would be a disaster, and that Hypergryph need to be true to their roots.
I agree with that
the
also.
universal divide was the call to remove the dodge. Some agreed with removing it, some said just make it more...
Yeah, I think the dodge and the base system was a major factor for a lot of people, right? I do. I think that was the two conversations when it came to the game, when everybody was being critical or talking about things they wanted to see change. People were relating the conversations around the dodge being much more forgiving, much more, I guess, action-orientated, and bases being much easier, blueprints and stuff, which I think are lent into that conversation regarding the blueprints. But upon thinking about it over time, I just don't see how it could be implemented without taking massive things away from the game. It's a fundamental part of the game, right? And I think if you're not into the base building, then I don't want to be that guy that says just don't play the game. But it's like going into something like Minecraft and being like, well, I don't like doing the building aspect of things, or playing a survival game and being like, well, I don't like survival games. If it could just be like this other game. So I kind of get it, right? I kind of get it. I think it does need to be something that you have to be responsible for in the game.
Strategic, some said remove the iframes, some said tie it to a factory item, and this guy decided I'm gay. But after being posted to Bilibili, it then spread further into other forums and became so divisive that some of those forums started arguing about the dodge button and whether the game should lean more into strategy or action.
It was
to the
a
point
divisive
where
video.
One content creator even made a response video because those arguments were getting out of hand. So, having briefly divided the community into warring factions, I will now attempt to do it again.
Round 2.
I mean, I will now explain why the dodge button is a mistake beyond simply pointing a finger at those who want to keep it.
Okay. Ooh, am I getting called out here? Because I must admit, well, I'll be honest, because I didn't play the first test, right? I can't say that it shouldn't be removed. I've got to be honest. I'm going to have to sit on the fence with this one. From what I played, I think it was fine. I just think it needed to be tweaked in the sense of it making sure that it always felt like it was reacting to my inputs. Because sometimes, as I say, it felt like there was a delay sometimes, and I was always like, dude, am I not timing things right here, or am I just stupid? Which probably is true. But as I said, I saw other people saying this as well. But again, I don't have the frame of reference to say, yeah, the game would be worse without it. But at the same time, I do like it, and I feel like maybe it should stay. But then again, it's not a hill that I would die on. I would be totally fine with it being removed and being forced to make decisions to mitigate damage. Because I can see that that's there in the game, right? I can see that that is actually there in the game anyway. And the dodge is a little bit more of an afterthought, I guess.
We first need to look at how a few of the criticisms of combat in the technical test were addressed in the beta. Not all of them, just the relevant ones. This will be brief. The most common complaint was the slow pace and long downtime, which was addressed by what is essentially a total rework of the combat loop. Two of the most noticeable changes are the bullet time targeting being removed in favor of a lock-on system, and healing items being used automatically with per-operator cooldowns instead of having to bring up a sub-menu to choose who to.
I quite like that system where you've got the, you put the healing items into the character's, like, I guess, slot, and they have that automated element to it. Again, didn't play it before, but I guess it does remove some intentional aspects of the game, and he's leaning into a more automated part or style for the game. Because again, going back to Arknights, everything's intentional. The game really wants you to be involved in every decision within the game. Obviously, you've got skills that are automatic skills, manual skills, but the game, you know, there's no autoplay like in a lot of gacha games right now that have that style anyway, that allow you to be able to do autoplay stuff. Arknights doesn't have that. So, you know, I guess it is, I suppose in a sense, so it's like, you know, it's like having a skill that's automated, I suppose, to a degree.
Heal. Previously, it was only limited by one operator at a time getting the heal with one cooldown for the squad, but now that it's automatic per operator, there's a limited number of charges on it while in battle.
Okay, it's probably a bit more forgiving as well.
The most important change, though, is the way skills work. That is, instead of each skill having an individual cooldown with the set number of uses required to charge your ultimate, skills now have no cooldowns at all and instead use a shared bar of SP, and you have to decide which character gets to use the SP.
I like the SP bar personally. Again, ignorant to how it played before, or at least how it felt before. I I like it because it does make you play towards that, which I like the intentionality of that. I also like the fact that you can build characters to make it so you can recoup and regenerate faster, and the way you play allows you to regenerate it faster. And yeah, I like that because you can build around it. You know, to me, I really do like the SP bar system. I do, rather than just straight up cooldowns. I'm fine with cooldowns in games, but I do like the idea that you can reduce that cooldown by your actions and how you build units.
You have. There is also the addition of combo skills and being able to trigger each
Which I really like the combo skills.
Is the key to building
I really like
them.
them. I think for me, that's the crux of why I found it so satisfying. I love the combo system, I do.
Way to get a general idea of how someone is meant to be used. Plus, there was the issue of guaranteed attacks, which was addressed with the dodge button. Combine all these changes and the pacing of combat feels much faster. Right, now, where can we see how players felt about the...
Game needs a proper dodge. Full stop.
Players were clearly happy with some changes, considering all the praise and comparing it to the tech test.
Yeah,
but nonetheless,
I think
they were
it did.
still not satisfied with the dodge, and they were not satisfied with the...
I think in general it did get people on board a little bit more from what I can see as well, looking around the community. I do think people think that the beta was an improvement over the initial technical test.
Rate of SP generation. But unfortunately, much as they might insist otherwise, these complaints about dodges and SP are misguided because dodging is not the root cause of the issue. It is
like I say, I don't want the dodge to become more forgiving. I don't want to be able to use less SP or have more SP for it, or just be able to just, you know, it to be a lot easier. I definitely don't want that personally, because I like the fact, even though, as I say, it's probably less, you have less responsibility than you did, I still do like the fact that you can't be spamming this. If you do, you're going to be in trouble. Like, this is a game that feels like it does not want you to be spamming. But I guess from the previous test, maybe people are seeing it go towards that direction, and I can understand the frustration and the worry as well.
Virtually impossible to discuss dodging in video games without someone at some point bringing up Dark Souls and
Guilty. I think it does make sense with this game, though. Again, everything being intentional, having responsibility over things, needing to make decisions based around your SP and all that sort of stuff, such as like the stamina in Dark Souls. Lowlight is also a big fan of Souls-like games, I believe, right? Along with a bunch of other based IPs as well. So it kind of makes sense for me, but am I getting called out here? And also, people do meme about Arknights being the Dark Souls of tower defense games, which I'm fully on board with that, because I hate tower defense games, but I've actually come to love Arknights. Yeah, it's a weird situation.
Endless comparisons to Souls-likes can get rather tiring, but in our case, we have good reason to.
Okay.
Lowlight, the creator of Arknights himself, is known to be a huge fan of Elden Ring, and he
has already
confirmed the existence of references to it.
I think I remember this now, actually.
In Enfield. So let's examine the role of dodging in Enfield by first seeing what we can learn from Elden Ring. From Software are known for their enemy and boss designs for a reason.
Yep.
Enemies hit hard and you are expected to die repeatedly. The game provides you with several ways to mitigate that damage. Armor and shields are abundant, vigor increases your HP, etc. However, the ultimate form of damage mitigation would of course be total invincibility, and oh look, how convenient. Dodge rolls provide an accessible and unlimited supply of short windows of invincibility known as iframes. However, there are two important things to remember here. Firstly, attacking and dodging both consume a set amount of stamina. You must spend the same resource both to deal and avoid.
So the responsibility is on the player to learn when and when not to do certain things, or the game will severely punish you. Which again is something that I do want myself in Enfield, right? I don't want it to be just another spammy, click E, click Q, hey, we've won the fight kind of situation. As long as my build's built in a particular way to eke out as much damage as possible with steamroll content. So, man, am I being converted here?
Damage. And secondly, in essence, you cannot cancel the animations for either of them, leaving you vulnerable for their duration. As a result, you need to restrain
This fight filtered so many people, didn't it?
Impulsively, because the game is designed from the ground up to punish you for doing so.
Yeah.
Delayed attacks and frame traps teach you to dodge sparingly and with intention, and one of the key challenges presented by the fast pacing of endgame bosses is pushing the limits of your stamina management. The result is a flow state where every action is a carefully considered commitment. If you were able to cancel attacking and dodging animations, that commitment would disappear and the game's skill expression would become a matter of optimizing those animation cancels.
That's actually true, though, really. You know, it takes away the whole point of the game. The whole point of the game as well is to learn, to be groomed in to understanding if you do this, you're going to get punished. If you keep putting your hand in the cookie jar, you're going to get a slap kind of situation. And if you remove that, you remove the whole point of the game design, and it loses what makes it special. And again, you can definitely tell from the previous video, there is that fear for Toblerone, right? That the game will lose that intention and thus lose what makes it special. And I totally get that, right? Again, it's like when we talk about the whole base situation, I was probably one of the people who did say, like, you know, maybe there should be some systems in to allow people who don't want to interact with the base to not interact with the base. But then when I think about it, it's a core component of the game. I've thought about it more since we played the test, right? It's a core component of the game. It's like playing a survival game and not really like survival elements and wanting them to be gone. Or playing something like Minecraft and being like, well, I just don't really want to do building stuff, which I know the game gives you those sort of elements. But it's a core component of what makes the game what it is. And if you remove that, it just loses something fundamental, doesn't it?
Cancels. That might be okay in other games when the creators intend it, but a fundamental part of Elden Ring's identity is not just difficulty, but discipline. And without the risk and reward created by the commitment of your actions, that identity would be compromised. It is precisely because the game presents you with such challenges that you are rewarded with those moments of unbridled ecstasy in overcoming them.
Come on! Come on! Yes! Let's fucking go! Let's fucking go!
See, these feelings are great in games, right? This is perfect point. Yesterday, I cleared Frost Nova, and I'm still E1 in Arknights, right? A lot of people might be like, big deal, you cleared Frost Nova. But as somebody who's still totally E1, and I'm like trying to see how far I can go in the game, it's a big thing for me. I killed the Witch King in the last event, rerun event, E1 as well. People told me I wouldn't be able to do those two things. And I know there's people who can probably do that quite easily, who've had a lot of experience in the game. I'm quite new. I'm relatively new to Arknights. I only started playing it after the Enfield test. And those two moments are the most rewarding moments I've had in Gacha. I like Wuthering Waves. I like clearing holograms. I like difficult content in games, right? And there's been some real fun moments in Gacha games I've played. Some real aura moments, some exciting cinematic moments, some cool fights. But nothing has quite lived up to those two moments of clearing those stages and that satisfaction and that feeling, that gratifying feeling after doing so, because you had to plan it out, you had to work around it, you failed, the game taught you things as you failed, sometimes you failed to take those on board, but gradually you started putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and when you finished it, it was a beautiful thing to behold. And again, that would be nice if Enfield has that, right? It would really be nice if Enfield has that feeling to completing a particular point in the game that really has been a roadblock. Not because you haven't built something right, although that's obviously going to be a thing, it's a gacha game, but because you weren't doing things right, rather than the game just giving you an out, right? We're going to take the responsibility off you and let you just basically circumvent things, which I'm cool with. I do like games to give you options, because then that gives variety, right? But yeah, I want those feelings. I want those feelings in Enfield.
Holy shit, that was
Now let's compare what we've learned from Elden Ring with combat in Arknights Enfield. While the goal of an attack in Elden Ring is purely to deal damage, in Endfield some of the first things the game teaches you in the tutorials are that your basic attacks deal very little damage compared to skills, skill points regenerate very slowly, and the last hit in your basic attack sequence, the final strike, will restore SP. The game is telling us that SP purposefully regenerates slowly because it's your job as the player to obtain more of it. In other words, basic attacks are not meant purely for dealing damage, they are primarily a step.
This is why I like the SP system.
You use basic attacks to get SP with the final strike, which you then use to cast a skill which deals considerably more damage, which then triggers a chain of combo skills. You get the picture. Several combo skills are also triggered by a final strike, which is why you don't get SP from each individual normal attack, because it would make those combo skills very inefficient compared to those that aren't. And
reduce the significance of them as well, right? This is why, like I said earlier, I like the SP system because it you know, you can control the recouping of it rather than it just being based around a cooldown system. Again, didn't play it, but I think it's in my head, I'm like, it's got to be an improvement, right?
Now, if you only have 1 bar of SP and you use it on a random skill that doesn't enable any combos or elemental inflictions, you'll then be left without much to do besides going and getting more
Game punishes you
SP.
for it.
Consider also the example of Aviwenna. Her combo skill and her ultimate will place thunderbolts in the ground, and then with her battle skill, she retrieves those thunderbolts, dealing electric damage to everything in their path. But if you just use the skill aimlessly, all she does is a little jump and spin, which totally wastes the SP. Furthermore, consider the technical test's bullet time targeting, where every single skill cast forced you to make a decision because it was a 2-step process of selecting
look
a skill
interesting,
and
though, that
deciding a
does.
direction. You can see the pattern in what both versions of the game are asking of you. Enfield is trying to discourage carelessness while encouraging discipline and intent. And you can see that design goal throughout the game. The limit on the number of zipline towers you can have in a given region.
It's like it puts a responsibility on the player to make choices and make good choices. But I suppose in this space now, people don't want that, do they? People don't want the responsibility of, well, my decision will matter. They say they do, but when it's tried to be implemented, people recoil from it. Oh, I need forgiveness. I need to be able to make mistakes constantly and it to be casual, which I get it, right. These are gacha games. I understand the desire for casual parts of games, right, and the desire for it to be like that. But like, let's have something different, right? Let's have something that it means something. This is why I say I really like Arknights. For me, Arknights, it feels so unique in the space. It does something that no other gacha game does. And I can see, like, you know, it would be nice if Enfield did it as well, right?
To encourage you to be intentional with where you place them instead of just spamming them everywhere. Even the gacha system discourages you from just randomly pulling for no reason. Recall how
I said this as well, right? Remember when we first saw the gacha system and there was all the videos, worst gacha system ever, and there was like me and Tectone and probably like half a dozen other people who was actually like, wait a minute, if this works the way it does and dupes aren't as significant as they like as in Arknights, where they don't matter as much as things like Genshin and Wuthering Waves, and the way the weapon system works and you're recouping weapon currency from pulls anyway. This isn't a bad system. You're getting a guarantee at 120. You've got a 50-50 at 80. If you are sensible with your pulls and don't fall into the trap of being impatient like you would be in something like Genshin or Wuthering Waves and just building pity because that's how people think they have to do it now, that you will probably, as a free-to-play and a low spender, be in a better situation, but people went straight to the, I'm a greedy and stupid. And it's like, no, but kinda in a way, really, you know, like we do have to take some responsibility sometimes in these games, that it shouldn't just be, well, let me just spam and I'll rely on RNGesus, right? And then if it doesn't work out for me, game's full. Which again, I'm not defending Gacha as a whole. Gacha is incredibly predatory, but I'm just saying it does put a bit of the onus on the player to pick and choose and where you go. And if you do that, you can get things more efficiently and probably cheaper as well.
Elden Ring punishes the player for pressing buttons impulsively. Using the same resource both to deal and avoid damage, and animations being uncancelable, work together to set a deliberate pace.
Yeah.
But Enfield's design contradicts itself. It wants you to be disciplined and intentional while simultaneously allowing you to just dodge at will. Notice how the resources for dealing and avoiding damage are separated. In order to get the resource for dealing damage, SP, you need to get a final strike. Doing so often means you will need to take damage. There is a good reason one of the main purposes of the factory is to produce healing items, and also that the main stat on every single piece of gear is...
Good point. Good point. Sorry, my phone alarm's going off. That's a good point, though. It does feel like almost a separation in the design there. You can see it really when you think about it in the gear and the healing items, and then the game's like, oh, well, you don't really have to worry about that so much because you can mitigate damage this way rather than mitigating damage through things like defense and being proactive in how you use your skills and such. And obviously the ability to heal. That being said, again, I don't feel personally it takes away from my enjoyment. Now, of course, that's an I'm all right, Jack attitude. You know, I do like to see it from other people's point of view as well. And I can understand this worry. I definitely can. And I get it from the design philosophy point of view. It is probably a departure from what they initially wanted to do, because obviously the dodge was added, you know, it was added after the fact, right? It wasn't an intentional design initially. It was a reaction to people's viewpoints on the game. Now, again, this is subjective, where you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. This is why we're having this conversation, right?
Defense, which in Enfield means final damage reduction. Meanwhile, your resource for avoiding damage is stamina. Dodging will consume 1 bar of stamina, and the game starts you off with 2. But once you've collected...
Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier in regards to the SP. Some people were talking about, like, SP being tied to dodges as well, and having more SP that could allow you to do more dodging, and obviously more stamina and stuff as well. Like, I was one of the people as well that said, initially, maybe starting off with because what did you start off with now? Was it 2 pips of stamina? So you could do 2 dodges back to back with, and then wait for the recharge. And I was one of the people that said, maybe if we started off a little bit more, again, because I came into the game totally blind, I'm all for the dodge. And I still am a pro dodge person in this game, right? But I think I've come away from, okay, we need more pips of stamina now. We definitely don't need it. I don't think I was ever really, well, can we do something with the SP? Because as I say, there was some people talking about that, the conversation of like, of SP being tied to the dodge and stuff as well, if I remember rightly. Yeah, I'm definitely not in that camp.
All the Ethereum, that increases to 6, and at that point you don't even need to think of it as a resource anymore, because in practice you just never run out of stamina to dodge. Which consequently means players do not have any expectation of restraint with the dodge button, nor of being willing.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as I say, initially I wanted more pips, but then as you do get more, I think I did like it being a bit more restrictive at the start, right? And you're having to pick and choose when you dodge, because even with the dodge, initially, you still had to really pick and choose when to dodge, and sometimes just to face tank damage, and it was more effective to face tank damage sometimes, and that's where I say the intention of maybe it being there, because you have to learn how to mitigate damage in other ways, you know, and this is why I say keep the dodge, but keep it being actually quite restrictive and very much a thing that you have to work around.
Willing to take damage. And in addition to that, every single attack and skill animation will be cancelled by dodging.
Yeah.
The sole exception is Gilberta's Gravity Well, which is the only battle skill in the game that is in effect over a fixed duration, as opposed to a single instance of damage or an instantly applied buff. All of this combined tells us that Enfield's dodge exists in direct contradiction to the discipline and intentionality the game is trying to encourage.
It's fair point.
It may well be possible to adjust it to complement their intended design goal, but if you are a beta tester,
I think it will as well. I do think it will as well. And I think hopefully Hypergryph will come to that point. But I think he's right. You know, it definitely does feel like it is something that was an afterthought and goes against the actual philosophy of the game initially.
Looked at the feedback section, you will have seen that in reality, the vast majority of players were asking for the opposite. More iframes, more SP, more rewarding, and so on and so forth. The astute observers among you might have figured out where this is going, but bear with me here, because remember, dodging is not the root cause of the issue. To take a very brief detour and give necessary context for an example I'm about to use, in November, Arknights tried an experimental co-op game mode. Unfortunately, it took place a couple of weeks.
I never played this. I think I might know where this is going. Just Wishadell. I think I might know where this is going.
Wishadell, who was given the most ridiculous kit Hypergryph have ever made. Fans of Wishadell were naturally going to be inclined to use their shiny new win button, and so most of my co-op games consisted of my teammates deploying her, killing everything in sight, leaving absolutely nothing for me to do but sit on my ass and wait for it to be over, because leaving early would put me on a matchmaking cooldown. To put it in other words, I had no agency. My teammates' use of Wishadell was preventing me from taking any action, and it was absolutely fucking miserable. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. Ark is an operator who deals a fixed amount of physical damage to an allied unit in return for a hefty buff.
Oh no. Oh no. Don't tell me he did.
But Wishadell doesn't have enough defense to tank it. So I brought him to every game and immediately team killed every Wishadell I came across so that...
That's kind of based though. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of based.
I could actually enjoy playing the co-op mode together with my teammate. So numerous were my Ark team kills that I decided to have a bit of fun with it by writing a song.
I'm taking matters into my own hands. This is my villain Ark. If none of you will let me play the game, I'll keep deploying Ark behind your dear beloved waifu Wishadell before I cast durian-flavored Stimpack resolutely up her ass.
Plenty of people were...
Okay. Tobaru is actually talented for content creation. He's really talented for this gig. He really is. Okay, that's dope. That's dope.
Delighted with my mischievous musical merriment, including
the villain
some
arc
Wishadell
begins
users themselves, as opposed to the Arknights subreddit, which banned me for 4 entire months. But while I will
okay, Reddit does get butthurt, man.
freely admit that yes, I was being a little bit insensitive, there were some comments on
Little
both the video and the
trolling,
Reddit
little
post
trolling.
which elucidated a common point of view.
Yo, if people are coming in and doing that in Senso, it's kind of like, I suppose it's a little bit trolly the other way, because that's just especially with events in games, a lot of the gacha games, right? A lot of people see it as just like, let me get through it, let me get my rewards, rather than enjoying the event, right? This is why sometimes I say that, of course you want event rewards, right? Of course you do, but sometimes when we get more event rewards in games, it's great, but it can be used as a band-aid to cover content that's designed in a way that really doesn't offer anything. And that's why I always argue for events. It's one of my biggest problems I had with Wuthering Waves for a long time, to actually be individual, unique, and fun, because I'm playing a game, right? I don't want to just get to the end. I want to enjoy the means. I want to enjoy the journey. Again, like I say, he's trolling a little bit, but I suppose, when you're having that constantly happening, it's like, dude, man, I ain't even getting to play the event here. What we here just for the reward. So, I get it.
Those who were offended by it. Nearly all of them said something along the lines of, what if I don't care about the event? What if I want to just get the rewards and be done with it? It didn't matter to them that this was a cooperative game mode, and no matter how clearly it was explained to them that their use of Wishadell was preventing me from
don't get me wrong, I understand this. Everybody wants to play a game in their own way, right? But yeah, this is what I am in the section of, I want rewards in these modes, right? But I want to feel like I want to play the mode as well. Because at the end of the day, it's a game, right? And I think sometimes in gacha games, you get so wrapped up in, I have to have the materials, the mats, I have to have, this is the main thing. And you just get stuck in like that hamster wheel then. And the game itself just becomes an entire chore. It's not about having fun anymore.
Using anyone, it just
and the games kind of groom us to it sometimes, don't they?
They didn't even enjoy the game. They just wanted the rewards that came after it.
Yeah.
With zero consideration of how their actions might affect their teammates' experience. Now think about some of the complaints from the beta for a moment. Remember all those seemingly random requests for open world mechanics like wall climbing and grappling hooks?
Oh god. I had a video where I said that I thought Tecton was wrong about the exploration, and who didn't like that. He got a little bit pissy over that. I didn't even watch the video fully either, and was making out that I was using his opinion to just basically make a video about his opinion rather than making my own video. You watch the video. I was making my own video. I don't think I even really referenced Tecton apart from that. I just this is why I don't see the exploration in Enfield as a problem, because it made exploring significant. Because if you had grappling hooks and gliders and being able to wall run stuff, the world itself becomes smaller. And that's why I think it was a good decision to go semi-open world and have it. So, I made this point when I had to get to, I think there was a chest to get to. It was behind a wall. There was an electrified gate, and you had to jump on a few things and climb across some stuff and drop over the other side of the wall. And it's simple game design to get the chest. And it was like, okay, that the world itself there felt bigger and actually more. Just you just felt a part of it a little bit more. It felt more significant because I couldn't just run over there and just run up the wall, or just double jump over the wall, or run up this other thing and then glide down to it, which is all cool to have those things, but I want that exploration to feel a little bit more significant. It made the world feel more interesting for me, because you had to, in a sense, getting things was almost a little bit like an old platform game where it's like, oh, that thing's up there. How do I get to that? Okay, I've got to go all around here and jump over there and drop down, rather than just, yeah, man, let's just speed run up the wall kind of thing.
And stuff. They must be aware that a major part of the game is relaying power and building your own zip lines, right?
Another intentional thing again.
Death Stranding should be pretty obvious. You get
even
to choose
the color
where
palette.
The zip lines go, but you have to set them up yourself. You can't just have them without building them. But all those requests for random open world shit exist because whether you realize it or not, you're asking for exactly that. You want what the zip lines provide without the responsibility of building them yourself.
Yeah.
Importing mechanics like grappling hooks and wall running and flying or whatever simply wouldn't work. The game is fundamentally not designed like that. It
Agree.
would completely trivialize every single terrain obstacle, and you'd then be left wondering why the world feels so much smaller.
Thank you. This is why I say, like, again, for me, when you create an open world, right, it can become a real barrier to the fun of the game, you know, because if you make traversal insignificant to a degree that the world itself feels smaller, then it loses the sandbox element, right? You know, like, this is why I say that it's easy to come up with the concept of doing an open world game. It's hard to actually implement it and to have longevity and fun in traversal, in getting around. Obviously, you want a bit of ease of access as well. So if you do need to get from point A to point B quicker, you either have systems like this or waypoints to certain areas. But I think when you trivialize it, the world itself almost becomes a detriment to the game, because you end up just being like, well, I just need to get to point A, point B. What's the fastest way to get there? And the world becomes smaller itself.
Because that constraint is not an oversight or a shortcoming, it is deliberate.
Yeah, it's a design. It's a
Looking back
feature.
at those earlier
It's not a
complaints in the
bug.
beta about SP and dodging, if you're performing final strikes, getting SP is very simple, or you can just use Arknight to make it easier. But the player is insisting on dodging even when the game is punishing them for doing so carelessly. And instead of making that connection and deciding not to dodge, they are just asking for more SP and easier dodges. You may have noticed a pattern here. At first,
Hold on, what was that comment there? I want to see what that comment was. I think Perfect Dash should just give some SP instead of not consuming stamina to make it worth it to interrupt your autos to dodge. What about having both? I think I was in this camp initially, but as I think about it now, I do want the game to be punishing and to give you the tools that you need to use to mitigate this stuff without just like being reactive, just being like, let's parry, let's dodge, you know, like it is in other games as well.
SP and easier dodges. You may have noticed a pattern.
I think these might have been the conversations regarding SP that I was thinking about.
Gacha players do not want their actions to matter. Except, that's not actually the full picture.
It's definitely not what they say. People say they want it to matter.
Design goals in other games. It's not as if they're all just unteachable and refuse to take responsibility for their actions in every part of life. But it seems to be near you.
I think this is when we go to, it's just a gacha game, bro, conversation, right? Where people use the fact that because it's a gacha game, it shouldn't have the things that real games have. When people forget that the monetization system is what makes it a gacha game. Not that, oh, all of a sudden it's a gacha game, so everything has to be dumbed down, right? And I understand that, you know, there kind of is the space, but let's make games that are not like that, right? You know, wouldn't that be great?
Universal when they're playing gacha games. And that is where the real root of the problem
Like
lies.
Wuthering Waves!
Gacha gamers have been taught their actions won't matter.
Yep.
And therefore, gacha gamers have come to expect their
They've been
actions
groomed.
will not matter. The complaints from beta testers all stem from this root cause. Dodging when it's a bad move led to consequences, but your expectations are that dodging is never the wrong move.
Yeah.
Pulling impulsively is always a bad decision, but because the rate of guarantee...
What was I saying earlier, right? People have really been groomed to pull like this. Well, I'm just building pity. Which I'm not saying that's bad, but, you know, there can be better ways. And I feel like Enfield's been designed in a way that's like, hey, this can work for you more efficiently if you're smart about the way you do things. But a lot of people will see that as like, oh man, well, you know, so what I have to actually be patient with my pull. I can't just hope that I'll get everything. You know, God forbid in a gacha game, right? I know, I get it. They're predatory, I understand, but they've, you know, you've got to be sensible about the way you do these things sometimes. And again, looking at the system for me, I'm here for it.
When T carries over only Hoyo games, your expectations are that doing so doesn't usually make a difference. Setting up your own zip lines is a major part of the game, and not setting them up means you'll be walking everywhere, but your expectations are that of already having a plethora of locations to teleport to and of being able to fly around at will. Arknights Enfield's dodge button currently means deciding whether or not to dodge matters, but we saw earlier that players do not have any expectation of restraint because the stamina basically never runs out and the dodge lacks commitment. The commitment in the example of Elden Ring means you're punished for acting carelessly, and Elden Ring is known for
I agree. I'm on that. I'm in this camp now. I am in this camp. Again, I say I wasn't before, but I'm in this camp. The dodge does need to be still very restrictive. Just needs to be polished a little bit. But I don't want to be able to just spam dodge. I want it to have impact. I want to have to take the responsibility of messing up and be like, yeah, that was on me. That was on me.
Discipline is expected. Gacha games, on the other hand, are the opposite. They are known for having very few consequences.
Yeah.
So when they introduce a consequence to something players aren't used to facing consequences for, it subverts their expectations of the game. The problem with gacha gamers is not a problem of commitment. The problem is that instead of reevaluating what their expectations are, they simply ask for the game to better match their expectations by removing those consequences.
We have this thing in the gacha space. Oh man, I can't wait to get something that's a little bit different. These games are all the same. Oh, another open world Genshin game. And then a game does something different. Why can't it be like the games I already play? It's like sometimes developers are damned if they do and damned if they don't, right?
Consequences. With Elden Ring, we saw that restraints on your agency create risk and reward, but when my co-op teammate prevented me from contributing, we saw that zero agency just creates frustration. The problem with the technical test was not the lack of a dodge, the problem was the lack of any agency in reacting to those attacks. Dodging is not the only solution to that lack of agency, but it is a popular one, which is why there were so many calls to implement.
It's very easy implemented as well, right? And people understand it, right? As you say, it's what people expect. How do I mitigate damage? Well, I dodge. I parry, I dodge, right? So I can understand Hypergryph being like, well, this is what people would expect. It's probably what they want, and it will be quite easy to implement as well without really restructuring too much. We just tack it on kind of thing.
But now with the beta, the problem is that dodging exists in contradiction to the discipline and intent they want to encourage.
I think that's
there are
fair.
various solutions you could try
statement.
to make the dodge actually complement the combat system, like basic attacks slowly reducing your stamina and only recharging it once you stop attacking. But that wouldn't solve the issue because dodging would still interrupt your basic attack sequence, so you'd still need to take damage to get SP, so gacha players would still complain. And if dodging didn't reset the sequence, combat would simply be reduced to a matter of optimizing animation cancels and memorizing optimal rotations, and the game's identity is
I don't want that either. I don't want it to be optimal rotation, animation cancels. Let's find out that tech in how to squeeze them out. And there's going to be that, right? It's a game. There's always going to be tech that you can figure out, you know, how to, I can reduce this, or I can eke out this bit more by using the game's engine against itself kind of thing. Yeah, I don't want it to be all about, you know, the wooer style of play, which is fine in wooer, but I don't want every game to be wooer, right?
Compromised. The call to remove the dodge is not a call to bring back the guaranteed attacks of the technical test, it is a call to change what that agency looks like. It doesn't need to be a reflexive dodge or parry button. Removing the dodge is an immediate way to force the player to reevaluate their expectations from the very start. Because if the controls and inputs do not let you dodge impulsively, then you have to reconsider how you're going to mitigate damage, which forces you to appropriately adjust your expectations of the game.
You have to plan, strategize.
That response video from Billy I mentioned at the start of the video makes a very good point related to this problem of expectations.
Okay. The blueprint, yeah. I was saying, I think that conversation was much louder, yeah. Pretty much every person I saw reacting to it. And again, I fell into this trap myself of thinking that maybe we could make it work, but it could be implemented, should I say, to stop filtering people. But then, as I said in these videos, how could it be implemented? I don't know exactly how it would be implemented. And two, it's a fundamental core part of the game. It's like going to play Factorio or Satisfactory or whatever game that has a core element to it and being like, how do I get around this core element? I don't want to interact with it. It's like, at that point, that you do have to have that conversation. Well, is this game really for you? Now, I know people get annoyed at that. That's a way for a game to die. Well, I think it's a fair conversation to have, right?
在要求蓝图的言论中，拿那几个游戏给进行讨论。抄作业比起亲力亲为的闪避，才是最快捷、迅速删除掉一个玩法乐趣的东西吧？那为什么有那么多人对蓝图抄作业有需求？就是因为许多人他就是抱着吃快餐的心态去玩 Gacha.
Eating fast foods.
He's absolutely right in saying that blueprints would be an atrocious idea, and if they'd been present in the beta, the Death Knell video would be sunshine and rainbows compared to the Doom posting I'd be doing in that timeline. But what I think his point of view misses is the fact that with Arknights, Hypergryph have been consistently reluctant to add any features that could be considered as the game playing itself or making decisions.
I hope that stays like that as well.
It never once had an autoplay button. You have to choose where to deploy.
And even the auto deploy is like a replay of what you did, right? You know, again, this is what I said earlier on in the video, right? The Arknights is an intentional game. You have to be involved in all decisions or you will get severely punished for it, right? Now, obviously, I know there's units you can get in the game that are a lot more powerful that allow you to make mistakes. But that's where the beauty in the game comes, right? That's why there's so many different niches within the game in different ways to play the game. And it's why I've been having so much fun doing E1 stuff. Now, everybody's different. Some people just want to clear content and smash through stuff. The game loses something when it has that, right? And Enfield will lose something if it does that as well.
Your operators and when to activate their skills yourself, and only then do you get to auto-deploy. Likewise, in Endfield, their way of addressing the complaints about the factory was not to add blueprints, but instead to add loads of tutorials.
Yeah, I must admit, I think they do maybe need to tweak the implementation of the tutorials, right? They I don't know if they could just streamline the tutorials is what I'm saying, right? It didn't feel like it was, again, I felt like this was like, obviously, well, we need to add this in after, which they do. You do need the tutorials and stuff. I think it could be done in just a bit of a better way, right? Rather than having to sit through and do what you did, rather than like maybe a bit more of a footnote explanation that's just streamlined a little bit.
And a more intuitive
a little bit quicker
interface.
To get through it.
The core design philosophy of do it yourself remains just as clear, which is why I don't think pre-made blueprints will be added anytime soon.
I hope not. I do hope not now.
From other players.
Yeah,
But
I do hope not now.
He is right. Those demands for blueprints will grow louder and louder because Gacha
people don't want to have to go through the chore, do they?
The meal without the responsibility of cooking it. And to build on the analogy further, fast food might be
instant gratification,
but if you grow accustomed to it, serious health implications aside, cooking your own food will start to feel like a chore. Hypergryph have said they consider the infrastructure and automation to be the focus of the game, explicitly citing games like Factorio and Dyson Sphere Program as successful examples. But those games have an innate filter in having an upfront cost. Free-to-play gacha games do not have that.
That's a good point. You know, free games have such a low bar of access that you get people sometimes start to play a game that are not really that interested, but they're giving it a whirl, but then want it to become something they want it to be, but they don't really care about the game anyway. They're not interested. And this is why sometimes in games, trying to please everybody results in pleasing nobody, because the people you're desperately trying to please are not interested really anyway. And then the core audience gets turned away because it's becoming something that they're no longer interested in. And when you have a box price entry, people have to make that decision beforehand. Is this my kind of game? Let me watch some videos. Let me read through what the game's about. Yeah, I don't know if this is for me. Oh, yeah, I think this is for me. Now, you might still find the game's crap, or you're going in with the expectation of being like, I like survival games. I like building games, where something like this, people will come in and play and be like, well, I want to do the Wuthering Waves Genshin side of things, but I don't want to do this side of things, when it's again, it is a core component.
Barrier to entry, and they are surrounded by this bizarre culture of people playing multiple games they may not even like playing, while simultaneously demanding those games make it easier.
I am a tourist myself.
Maintain their account.
I just stick to the games that I like.
In my years of playing Arknights, I have seen what Hypergryph can cook. They are not afraid to experiment, but it would be delusional to say they have never faltered before.
Oh, of
course. If the game wants gacha players to enjoy the base, they need to change their expectations of the game, and they will not do that unless the game forces them to. If anyone is capable of squaring this circle of sticking to their guns while maintaining mass appeal, it is Hypergryph. But accessibility must not undermine.
It is true, right? Again, it's a fundamental part of the game, so players do need to take, again, that responsibility of, okay, this might just not be for me, rather than, how does this game cater to me, even though a core component of the game isn't for me?
Identity. Arknights Enfield advertises itself as a real-time 3D RPG with strategic elements, and in China as a 3D real-time strategy RPG. Personally, I just think the gameplay should lean more into that. After the technical test, I hoped it would be slow, calculated, and stubborn, but Hypergryph made it fast, impulsive, and forgiving. That doesn't mean I think games with dodging are bad. But I have seen other communities become jaded, only able to sit and watch the obliviating drift of their beloved games towards an audience that has never cared. I have watched longtime fans of Monster Hunter resent the direction of Monster Hunter Wilds, ditching the necessity of positioning, anticipation, and commitment in favor of hitting a piñata that barely fights back, removing so many of those decisions and just going straight to the outcome because gamers don't understand why that decision was there in the first place. I have watched so many Enfield alpha and beta testers openly demonstrate they have precisely zero understanding of why some features and mechanics simply wouldn't work in Enfield, only able to draw upon experiences from some combination of...
This is why, again, I think sometimes, we talk about the whole comparing ways things. Comparison in video games is fine to do. It's healthy sometimes. But when we constantly want something from this game to be in this game, to the point of it like almost becoming another version of that game, it's just like, how is that healthy for us as gamers, right? How is that healthy? It's like wanting tomato sauce on everything. At the end of the day, it's like, fuck, bro, Terrible analogy, but everything becomes the same shade of grey, right?
Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves, end of list. Openly stating they have no interest in the Arknights IP whatsoever and just want yet another iteration of the same game while consistently pretending to care about the game's success. You might have heard a quote attributed...
That's a good point. The amount of people that do that in the gacha space, that pretend their critiques of another game are about making that game better, when they don't care about that game being successful or being better. They're not even that interested in it. They actively dislike it, and they've got their thing, but they want everything else to be like their thing, even though they've probably not really got that much intentions of, bothering with it anyway. They just want it when they want to hop onto it for an hour here and there. They want it to feel familiar.
To one of the lead designers of the Civ series that gamers will optimize the fun out of a game if given the option to,
True.
even if it ruins their experience of the
True.
game. But no other subculture of video games, not a single one, will not only ask for that option before the game is even out, but openly ask for the literal backbone of the game to be removed just because they don't personally like it. Do you open Balatro and complain about deck building? Do you open Portal and complain about solving puzzles? If you complain that modern games don't...
Yo, it's fair, right? Oh, shit, Duet Night. You know what the thing is? I think I kind of had fun with Duet Night of Beast, but, it's there to see, right? It's there to see. It is, the gacha version of Warframe, right? Yeah, I agree with everything here.
Don't try anything new, then shame them for doing so while rewarding the opposite. I hate to break this to you, but you are the problem. And if you start playing Arknights Enfield and you complain about the infrastructure and the factory, the very things that make it Arknights Enfield, that applies to you. Just make everything Genshin Impact! Big game always means better game. I'm not seeing enough movement. Put more shit on the screen. More big numbers, more random colors, more stupid bullshit.
Okay, this is a valid rant.
You speak of. Or if farming's the only gameplay that matters, just make my waifu look cool when I press E and Q and take my money. Look at how cool the animation is. Time to build pity. Let's go gambling. Please win. No save. Only win. What do you mean building pity isn't a thing? All my friends build pity. Obviously it's a thing, you fucking idiot. What is this Factorio shit? I don't have that kind of autism. I have the kind with no self-awareness or social skills whatsoever. Wow.
Oh. Valid rant. This is a crash out that I can get on board with. Based. True. Dude, yeah, again, what can I say to this? Dude's hitting all the notes. This is the conversations and the statements you see all of the freaking time, and it's tiresome, right? It is so tiresome. We lose so much when we think about things like this. It just all becomes the same.
Chat, look, boobs, absolute cinema. Take all my money. What do you mean they slightly reduced Nicole's boob size?
Wait a minute. I'm feeling cold out.
This is preposterous. The Chinese Communist Party won't let me masturbate. Video game? What the fuck is one of those? Just make it easier to maintain my account so I can continue to not play the games I've built my entire personality around. Gacha games should do nothing but compete for my attention by replacing every UI element with Subway Surfers and Family Guy funny moments because my
Bro. Man, dude, he's calling out so many people in the gacha space right now, and I love it.
Childhood cognitive development died the moment my parents decided to raise me with a fucking iPad. Sorry about the attention span. Take 3 big booms to make you feel better. Don't even give me a gacha game. Just give me a virtual baby playmat instead, where I can hit random objects while shitting my pants and crying about anniversary rewards. Because if I'm totally honest with myself, that's all I really want. Not a handcrafted experience by passionate game designers or a fun challenge to overcome. I just want a distraction. Something to keep me occupied so I don't accidentally start contemplating my meaningless existence on this godforsaken earth. Now just take one moment to seriously ask yourself, who is more deranged here? Me for crashing out in a YouTube video for your entertainment, or you for logging into 50 billion gacha games every fucking day that you don't even like playing, while having the audacity to demand every single one of those games respects your time when you don't even respect your own? I don't want
Wow. Man, I think we all might feel a little bit personally attacked there, but damn, bro. Again, that is a space in a nutshell. The demanding of so many games to cater to you, and you don't care. You're spamming through all these games just to keep accounts to a certain degree, and not actively even caring about the game or playing the game. That's why I am a tourist, right? There'll be a couple of games I'll play specifically at a time, and then I'm a tourist. If I get behind, I get behind. If it makes me stop playing the game, hey, it makes me stop playing the game. Like, people treat this shit like a personality trait and a job. It becomes an investment to them, and if everything doesn't respect their time like the one game that think does, it's terrible. Now, I'm not saying the game shouldn't respect your time, but at the end of the day, we have lost this thing in gaming. You know, even MMOs have become like that right now, where some games are designed for you to, again, overcome things, invest into them, spend time with them to be an experience rather than just something you could just steamroll, right? And then moan about everything else not being like that and having the ability to do that as well.
on Arknights Enfield
Valid crash
to be
outs.
filled with people who don't even want to play Arknights Enfield!
Facts. Facts. I'm sorry. When I saw so many of the Wooer space, particularly diving into Enfield, and you could tell that they're not interested in the IP, which is totally fine. I'm not saying that they have to be, right? I'm not trying to gatekeep here, but then actively critiquing the game in a way, which is fine again to critique a game, but really wanting it to have all the things that Wuthering Waves has, and basically be a little brother to Wuthering Waves. It was so frustrating to see. You know, when we get into those, the Wooer killer, the Genshin killer, and it's like basically all you're saying there is you want that game, but just slightly better, right? You know, when it comes to Wuthering Waves, all the arguments always go back, that all roads lead back to Genshin with Wuthering Waves. We don't want Enfield to be that. I've said this is why I had so much fun in the beta. It felt so much of a separation from Wooer and Genshin in comparison to like Wuthering Waves and Genshin themselves, that they're like so much like more comparable than Enfield is. Enfield feels like it stands on its own, and I suppose it probably did even more so in the previous test. I definitely don't want it to align with them more, because I can play those games if I want to play those games, right?
Ah, felt good to get that off my chest. That
As a
interview
valid
with
crash
Hypergryph
out.
I cited
Valid
earlier from
crash out.
G-Cores ends with this paragraph. Innovation is no longer just a creator's aspiration for their own work. It's something the market increasingly demands. Simply improving production standards is no longer enough to satisfy today's players.
Yep.
So whether you want to or not, if you aim to achieve something in the current market, you must create something that is uniquely yours.
Yep.
On paper, this sounds great. In their own words, they
Whether
want to
it's
innovate and
implemented.
create something unique. But we must not judge merely based on words. We should be judging
Exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say, I was trying to pause the video. There's a lot of dev speak that happens in this space, right? You know, PR speak. It's about whether it actually is. You know, you'll hear all these buzzwords around games. Actually, the proof is in the pudding, right? Again, for me, for Arknights, I think the proof's in the pudding, and I hope Enfield keeps the proof in there as well, and they actually cook up something that's worth tucking into.
actions.
And
Because
I'm hopeful
actions
it's going
have
to be. It's
consequences.
my most anticipated gacha
When
game.
scores of gacha gamers who don't want good games and just want a babysitter are all now suddenly very excited about Enfield's new direction, I find that to be kind of alarming. So
Okay,
I
it's
voiced
fair.
a dissenting
It's fair.
opinion. What better time to voice that criticism than while the game is still in development, when it can still make important changes? All that being said, I have cherished Arknights for this long for good reason. I look forward to finding out what they've been doing since the beta, because if they make the right decisions before release,
Same.
then on my life I will become the world's #1 hypergrifter. full turbo glaze, no brakes, I would be delighted.
Hey, we hyperglaze.
But until then, I remain patient. When the servers open, I will be there no matter what.
We will be there.
Ready to know
we will be there.
Arknights Enfield, ready to experience everything it has to offer. I just hope I will also be ready to cherish it for years to come.
Same. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. What a video. This is a long video. This is like an hour long. You know me, I yap. What a video. What a video. Guys, if you haven't checked out Tobro, check him out. This dude makes some serious quality H2O. And yeah, again, I'm not in the camp of removing the dodge. I'm not. Right, I'll put my flag in the ground. I like it, but I get it. I totally get it. And if it got removed, and we did have other ways to mitigate damage, and the developers really lent into good design decisions, I'd be fine with that as well. I am seriously excited about Arknights Enfield, and I'm incredibly passionate about it as well. Even after just playing the beta, I think it's probably the most passionate I've been about a gacha game, full stop. Wuthering Waves, I was incredibly passionate about it when it came out. And I'm very much passionate about Arknights now also. Like, I am really, really enjoying Arknights. But I'm incredibly excited about this game. And I think it is good to have these conversations and set yourself up for potential letdown, right? Because otherwise, you know, it'll be a painful situation. But I'm confident Hypergryph are going to do the right thing. And I just hope they don't lean into the masses and cave into the demands of the game being for everybody and end up being for nobody. Because I think there's something potentially special here. I think there's something that can advance the gacha space in a multitude of meaningful ways in systems. And I think it can be a great addition to the Arknights universe. As long as they don't listen to communities that will never really play the game properly, but just demand it becomes like their game. I think they have to watch the traps and the pitfalls that they could potentially fall into from that. So, yeah. Man, you know, slow clap, amazing video. This dude is a talented content creator. I've got to glaze him now. We're glazing Hypergryph. I've got to glaze him. This dude knows how to make content and puts it out there eloquently, and it's thought-provoking, and he actually sits down and thinks about it himself rather than just spamming out slop like I do. I think this was a very much needed video, and I think not only should Enfield fans watch this video, everybody should watch this video, because I think it's important to the space and important to games in general. This isn't just a gacha game problem. This is a gaming problem. This is in this desire to pretend that we want unique things in gaming and different directions, and then when we get it, we just scream, but it's not like what I'm used to. It's quite tiresome sometimes, right? Not everything is for everybody, and that's fine. Even if a game looks cool to you, it just might not be for you, and that's okay. We've got to stop demanding it caters to you, because there was a part of it that you'll be like, oh, that might be for me, and then you find out that the game entirely isn't for you. That isn't gatekeeping. That's just games sticking to what they envisioned and going through with it, and we need more of that. There's a reason companies like Ubisoft and Activision and EA just produce slop, because that's what they try to do. They try to appease everybody, and we get games that just roll off a conveyor belt and really have nothing special about them and nothing unique, and we need less of that, and we need more unique individual games that are passion projects, and good passion projects as well. It's hard nowadays because the industry is so massive and so money-based that we've lost something over the years, right? I remember the PS1, PS2 Origin days, the days of multiple games dropping each year that you just wouldn't get now because the risk is too great, because games cost so much money to make nowadays, which I get, right? But yeah, I'm here for this. I'm here for this. Guys, go check out Tobro. Show him some love. Great video. If you've enjoyed this reaction, let me know what you think in the comment sections about the whole situation. Like the video. And I just want to say as well, another glaze. Tobro, if you do actually end up watching this video, forgive me. I'm a stupid brummy. I'm not from Birmingham. I'm from Wolverhampton, but for most people, it's the easiest one to recognise. And keep doing this. You are a talented content creator, and I think you're good for the space. Anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next one.